everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Pop Jedi. I'm one of your hosts, Rob DeLaro, and with me, of course, is my Jedi crew, starting with Di Marie. Di, what is going on?
Hey, guys. What's going on?
And, of course, my other team member, Sith Jade. Sith, what's going on?
Hi. So happy to be here with you guys.
So, as we said, this is actually the launch episode of the show. This is your new source for all things in popular culture. You know, we want you to let your geek flag fly here. And we just talk about everything that's important in the news when it comes to new releases, comic books, Disney Plus, anything that's in the genre that you can possibly think of. And we'll start off at the top of the show with our big news coming through the week. First off, really big news when it comes to HBO Max and the Last of Us video game series. Pedro Pascal was just cast as Joel. Which is interesting. That's an interesting casting, I think. And it makes me kind of wonder, like, what is going on with the Mandalorian? And, you know, is this an off-season thing? Because this is a big thing as well. I mean, nobody really knows, right? Especially with the whole Gino Carano situation. If you guys aren't, familiar with that story, Gino Carano was just fired from the Mandalorian. We're not going to, bring too much heat to that right now. Just doesn't seem like it's, a very important topic at the moment. But it is really a shame, she did bring a lot to the character. Unfortunately, there are, certain guidelines when you work for a company and you have to mind your P's and Q's. There's really not much else to say about that. We're not trying to get too political on this show. But yeah, there's also news from the CW world. We have the Powerpuff Girls, the live action Powerpuff Girls heading to the Berlantiverse. What do you ladies think about that? I think it's kind of cool. To kind of see some 20-something live action Powerpuff Girls, kind of going through, as it said in the summary, that they're actually dealing with the fact that their childhood was stolen from them because they were fighting crime and didn't really get to live their lives. I think that's a good idea. I think it's cool.
I like it. I think it brings like a whole different perspective to it because everybody always asks, we watch these shows as a kid and they're like, okay, well, what happens after they grow up, after they kind of like figure out who they are and where they want to go with their life. So now we're going to get to see, what the Powerpuffs are going to do.
Yeah, most certainly. Do you have anything to say about any of these two stories before we go on?
I'm interested to see how they grow up and how they work together. They're disgruntled from having their childhood ripped away from them by fighting crime. So I'm just interested to see how they grow up and how they progressed in life through that. And if they're still interested in saving people or if they've become jaded in the world.
Yeah, I agree. So then we've got some book news. Legendary is actually coming out with a new children's book release for King Kong. I think it's called King Kong and Me, which is kind of adorable. And that'll come out in March. They're not really getting into the details because I guess it has, a lot to do with the plot summary for Kong versus Godzilla when it comes to the actual female or the little girl character in the story. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. And Cassandra Peterson, of course, Elvira herself is putting out a biography in the fall, 2021. I actually interviewed Cassandra a few times in the past, and she said, to me that she's been wanting to write this book for quite a while. So that's really cool to see that come out. And the woman's just an absolute queen in the horror genre. It's still to this very day. I mean, there's really not much else to say about that.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot that she's going to put into that. I'm really excited to see how much she delves into her life and her career with that.
Mm-hmm. In animation news, or adult animation news, there was news that HBO Max is putting out a series with the voice of Mindy Kaling for Velma of Scooby-Doo. And you know what? Initially, I wasn't really too excited about this, but, I'm a big fan of the Harley Quinn animated cartoon, the R-rated animated Harley Quinn cartoon on HBO. So if they bring it to that kind of level, I might be into it. I think I might be into it.
Yeah, I think they could. I mean, Velma's very quirky. She's very quippy. She's, quick-witted with her humor and stuff. So I think it would flow well if they're going to do it along the same lines as the Harley Quinn. I think it'll work.
Yeah, I agree. Kevin Smith just released a piece of the score for Masters of the Universe Revelation, which is coming out later on this year, hopefully on Netflix, which is a continuation of the 80s cartoon. It's got a great voice cast, but he just put out the score from Bear McCreary, and it just sounds wonderful and it's epic. A lot of drums and It's kind of Bear McCreary's stamp, but it kind of goes along the lines of of course the iconic moment where Adam says I have the power, and he turns Cringer into Battle Cat, and I think that's going to be amazing. And I'm not
I'm getting goosebumps right now just even thinking about it.
I just want to hear Mark Hamill voice Skeletor. That's it.
Oh yeah,
but the cast list is insane. It's like Lena Headey, Henry Rollins. The list goes on and on. It's crazy.
A lot of listers.
The Walking Dead actually started their final season, which I'm a little sad about, but that's okay. I've been a loyal fan of The Walking Dead for the entire run of the show, and I just hope it lives up to expectations. I think the special 6 episodes that they have coming up, the one story that's actually based on the Here's Negan story that came out from Image and Kirkman during the pandemic, which focuses on, of course, his wife Lucille and how he came to be Negan. I think that's going to be really cool. I think Angela Kang, the showrunner, is actually doing a really great job of The Walking Dead. I think the people that still pan it for whatever reason and stopped watching it, they just have no idea where it went, and it's just really great storytelling. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. I think it's like 28 more episodes, so it's not going anytime soon. It's
all good things must come to an end eventually.
Mm-hmm. Are you a fan of The Walking Dead, Di?
I watched it up to when Rick was hauled off in a helicopter. So
I think that's around the point when I stopped watching as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did, however, Norman Reedus at Comic-Con one time, and this was right before Walking Dead came out, but I walked to him and I was like, hey, I'm a huge fan of Boondock Saints, and he was kind of awkward and shy, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go look at zombie stuff. And then little did I know he was in The Walking Dead. So
that's funny.
I'm always going to...
I met him briefly. I met him briefly at a con at Press. He's a very cool guy, very down to earth. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so there's also a little bit of news that I thought was really cool that we should mention really fast. William Shatner, huge geek just like us, actually not only defended the LGBTQ community when it comes to his character Captain Kirk, just like Mark Hamill had initially done in an interview. Where he was just like, what, if you thought Luke Skywalker was gay, he's gay, and I thought that was really cool. So William Shatner actually had a Twitter conversation with an irate fan, and he kind of went through the same conversation, if you want to think that Captain Kirk is, one thing or another thing, that's totally fine with me. Because I guess the story had to do with, if they actually had created, like some sort of reboot and made him asexual or whatever. But the cool thing is that even though it was actually his competition, William Shatner knew about Star Wars Legends. And when the person actually had the conversation with him was saying that, well, Jedis were nothing but, asexual monks or whatever. He said, well, that's not true. Because in Legends, Luke Skywalker was married to Mara Jade. And that kind of blew my mind that William Shatner kind of knew that. That was really cool.
Yeah, that made me very happy. Even to just have him mention Mara Jade, because she's one of my favorites and she's not super well known. That's something that you have to be more of a fan of Star Wars to know that information. So just knowing that he's into it, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was super cool. And in Dungeons and Dragons news, Michelle Rodriguez was just cast in the Dungeons and Dragons film that they're actually working on right now. And that is from the directors and writers, I believe, of Spider-Man Far From Home. And it's supposed to be a Chris Pine vehicle. I got to be real honest with you guys. When it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, for me, there should be only one warrior wielding the sword of that script, and that is Mr. Joe Manganiello, which, of course, is the husband of Sofia Vergara, who was married to her with a D20 in his pocket. So, guy's a huge Dungeons and Dragons geek. And I don't know why they didn't ask him to write a script for that movie. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's the perfect person for it, it definitely is him. He's super passionate about it.
Oh, for sure. But, and it would just be a great movie because he knows exactly what he's talking about. And finally, we have the announcement today from Zack Snyder himself that he's going to be putting out a brand new trailer for the Justice League Snyder Cut. Which I personally am excited about. And of course, that comes from the news of the Joker release when it comes to the Jared Leto photos that came out. And I'm totally psyched. I'm biased. I am a fan of DC movies, even in their flaws, and I'm just dyed in the wool of DC. I root for them all the time. So I really didn't have an issue with him playing the Joker initially, but I really hope that he receives the redemption that he deserves, because he didn't get the accolades and the time to really show what he can do with that character.
Needs more lines, needs more screen time for sure. So that way we can actually like get a feel for him as the Joker.
Yeah. But how do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about that Justice League cut? I mean, I'm all in for those 4 hours. I'm totally in.
Well, I'm hoping that they touch on Robin's story and how his death panned out with the Joker, because I'm thinking that they're going to be touching on that storyline.
You know what? That would be amazing if they did that. If they kind of, made him Jason Todd or whatever. But I don't think it's going to go that way from what I'm gathering from, and spoilers here, guys, if you guys haven't read the Vanity Fair article that came out, but Snyder basically said that this is a continuation of the nightmare sequence from Batman v Superman. And this is, after the fact that Darkseid had taken over the Earth with his boom tubes and, parademons. And I guess Batman is actually having a mental conversation with himself through the Joker, and that's where the new Jared Leto comes in with the slick back hair and the new wilder look with the butcher smock with a bunch of police badge trophies all over him, because I guess he killed a bunch of cops.
It's intense.
Yeah, it looks cool. But if you guys haven't seen The Little Things on HBO Max, if he plays the character that he's actually nominated for a Golden Globe for right now, I mean, there's no stopping this redemption for him and this character. I'm really excited to see what happens with it. So let's get into some big news here. First, we're going to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer that came out during Super Bowl Sunday. Not a big Super Bowl, football guy myself, but I did, pay attention to those commercials that I was excited about. I was hoping that we would have gotten an announcement when it came to Black Widow, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're going to see that movie in our lifetime.
It's been put on a permanent back burner. Tears, sadly.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with her contract. I think her contract is so airtight, that it has to be a theatrical release in regards to her contract, and that's why they're having the issues that they're having, releasing it on Disney Plus. What do you guys think of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer?
I'm really excited to see about what happened with Sharon Carter when she went missing. Sharon Carter is Peggy Carter's niece, if you guys remembered. She is one of the original founding S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. So during Civil War, she went on the run. So we don't know what happened to her in that time. So I'm really hoping that we explore that storyline with her.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And, technically because of Endgame, she is also, she's Captain America's niece too, which is kind of, it's kind of, kind of got a little bit of a Star Wars vibe to it now. They changed the narrative.
Oh, no.
Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher weren't a love interest, which obviously changed by the end of that, first series. But I'm excited to see her, and I am excited to see Baron Zemo back. I think Daniel Bruhl's an amazing actor. I love him in Inglourious Bastards, and I love what he did in Civil War with the character. But now we get the iconic mask, and maybe we'll get the comic book storyline where the mask actually gets seared to his face. I'm excited. But the thing I'm really excited about when it comes to this, because I wasn't initially excited about this particular thing, because WandaVision just has more of my interest because it's more of a mystery. There's more of a dark psychology to it, where this is basically just like this is like the tastiest sandwich you can get. You know what I mean? Like all the meat is perfect, and you know what I mean? It's just basically you know exactly what you're getting. And I guess after WandaVision, people are just going to want to see just some Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and the Furious style, Marvel.
Yeah, they want to just relax and kind of watch something and just veg out instead of having to be every 5 seconds. Who's this? What's going on? What's actually happening? What's real?
Yeah. And initially I wasn't really excited about this, but then when I saw the dynamic and it kind of had more of a Lethal Weapon kind of vibe to it.
Buddy cop kind of like.
Yeah, like a buddy cop kind of vibe,
Yeah.
kind of like a Bad Boys vibe also.
Yep.
And it makes sense that these two, although they don't necessarily hate each other, there is a deep, competition between them because of the mantle that they were given or the mantle that they weren't given.
Yeah.
And I love I love the ending where they're having the staring contest and she goes, just blink, sweet Jesus. How old are you? It's like, well, you know what? If you don't if you count the snap, maybe he's like 104. So
yeah, right. How long can you hold a grudge?
But yeah, I'm, is there anything else that really stood out, in terms of that trailer? Of course, if you guys aren't familiar, it drops like we said during Super Bowl Sunday, and it premieres on Disney Plus in March. So Marvel Studios is just going to be spoiling us for the rest of the year, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be 6 episodes dropping on March 19th. So
yep.
Very, very excited about that.
Only 6.
So the next order of business we actually want to talk about, guys, is this whole Joss Whedon situation. And I don't want to, sit there and, be the one to feel like I'm mansplaining, but I'll bring people up to speed if they're not familiar. So Justice League, obviously the first cut when it was released theatrically was initially, that was a Zack Snyder joint. And unfortunately, Zack had lost his daughter, due to suicide. So he actually had to leave the production, and they had to get a director to take over for the, for the back half. And that was, of course, Joss Whedon, who is the creator of Firefly and Buffy and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. But anyway, Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in the movie, said he was having intense problems with Joss Whedon. He's been saying it for years. And, due to fan toxicity and, just, the studios, just trying to silence this guy, saying, he's just, like being a problem and whatever it is, he really didn't get a chance to really, speak his mind. And I think the problem that people had was that he wasn't really coming out openly and saying exactly what happened. He was just saying it was a very traumatic and horrible experience for him to work on the film. That he has a very loving relationship with Zack. He has no issue with Zack. It was just actually working with Joss. It was a real issue. So recently he had continuously for years had been, coming out with these, particular allegations. And, the last time that he did it was earlier this year, and they actually canned him from not only the Flash film that Cyborg was supposed to be in, they pulled him from Warner Brothers Studio as a performer. So when that happened, of course, that's when the Buffy troupe stepped up. And Charisma Carpenter was actually the first one to talk about Joss, and she was saying that he was really just overbearing, especially when it came to her pregnancy. Would say that she was fat. Would say that she, he would ask her questions like, "Are you going to keep it? Are you planning on keeping it?" And of course, like through the production, like she was pregnant and they, kept the camera, away from, her belly or whatever. And then when she had the baby, she was actually fired from the show. Then Michelle Trachtenberg had said, she was very young, of course, when she was doing the show. She was very uncomfortable as a teenager working with him. And that also happened with Amber Benson, who is not only just, part of Buffy, but she's a wonderful writer. She's written comic books and, fictional novels and done a bunch of collaborations when it comes to fiction. She's a fantastic writer. But she also came out and said that she had a lot of problems working on the Buffy set. And then, of course, SMG herself came out and said that I am very happy to be associated with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I do not want to be connected to Joss Whedon.
Yep.
And she also said, I don't really want to get into details. She goes, I am more involved with my family right now, of course, and there is a raging pandemic going on, so I'm not going to get into details. I'm more focused on life right now, which good for her. But I wanted to get you guys' perspective real quick. What are your feelings on that whole situation? And do you feel that it'll actually affect any kind of change when it comes to the industry? Because as you said before, Seth, you were saying that a lot of studios, even with all these allegations come out, it seems like these guys still have some sort of protections in regard to what they can do.
Even prior to all that, his wife had actually made a statement and kind of made a little, forthcoming about saying that he's portrayed himself differently than he actually is behind closed doors, with his actors and with people that he interacts with on a day-to-day basis. She's like, it was a very big parallel, in that area. And just any company that he's worked with, any studio that he's worked with, anytime anything has came up, they've just immediately nixed it and gone, nope, we're not talking about it. We have no comment. This is all false allegations. And when that happens, when they're that severe about it, that they don't even delve into it, they don't even attempt to get him to make any kind of comments or be any kind of forthcoming about it. Just talk about it. If you have your side of the story, please tell it instead of just radio silence. Because then that, if it is untrue, if there is a potential that it is untrue, then his side of the story is silenced, and then we don't get to know. Right. You want to have both sides of the story so that you can make a well-informed decision. And you can't do that if they're just going, nope, don't say anything.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I feel.
I mean, for me, well, I want to get your perspective on it too, Di, but, for me, it's hard to say as a male, right? But, when you're a male that believes, literally believes in, the power of women and the strengths that they actually have, and thinking that you're actually, in tune with another writer, AKA another male, who creates something as feminist as Buffy the Vampire Slayer in regards to the character, it's disheartening to realize that, he doesn't really have those sentiments, and it really was just a creation. He doesn't understand what he created. It was just a creation. It had nothing to do with his actual, emotional mentality when it comes to his feelings on women, which sucks. It really does.
Yeah, you read my mind about that, because growing up, Buffy was my hero. It was a female-dominated cast. They were doing things that a lot of shows weren't touching on yet, supporting the gay community and having the Tara Willow relationship and having such strong female characters, and knowing that the sexism and discrimination was going on behind the scenes. When you're watching this show and you're looking up to these characters and on, it's kind of like, how long has this been happening? What other shows is this going on? Yeah, it's just really disappointing to hear about.
Yeah, and and again, it's like you were saying, I mean, a lot of shows now, especially on the CW and all these nationally aired shows, when it comes to Berlantiverse and Flash and all that stuff, they still focus on the 3 points that Buffy had, and that was action and more importantly heart. So there was a lot of heart in their stories when it came to those characters. So a lot of these writers, when it comes to their guidelines and the grid that they create for their own television series is, Buffy was an absolute game changer. There's no question about it. That continues, to this very day when it comes to, writing and whatever. Yeah, it's a bummer, man. It really is. But, again, there's a lot of really horrible things that happen in the industry. It's just nice to know that we're finally in a place now, it seems, that even though we're not in a perfect spot, that we're obviously in a better spot where people can actually speak their mind and not have to fear, losing your career over it, or, or just being steamrolled out of the industry because, you're doing the right thing for yourself.
Yeah, people are definitely becoming more receptive, and when that happens, then, now this person is going to say something, now this person is going to come out and say something. So it can only do good. It can only, make more people feel like they can open up and say what's actually been going on. And then we can maybe, get some real good people in the industry, try to, make that a change instead of just keep filtering in the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah. Well, not to take the spotlight away from women and, the trauma that they go through, but, obviously it does happen to men. And I really just hope that Ray Fisher also gets the redemption that he deserves. Absolutely. And, that they step up for him, because obviously, there's something really rotten in Denmark when it comes to, Warner Brothers, which is, again, that's really hurtful, because I believe in that company so much, especially the DC universe. So I hope that they do the right thing for him. So with that, let's get into what we really wanted to talk about, which is I was so excited to hear online. I think there was actually there was a kind of like a Nielsen poll when it comes to streaming shows, and WandaVision is very close to standing up to The Mandalorian in terms of ratings,
Yeah, they're right there.
which is fantastic because we were obviously there from the beginning, and I love the show from the gate. It's very easy to do so because I've always loved those characters. Being a comic book fan, even when it wasn't cool. So it was really easy to get into. But I know a lot of people had an issue with the whole 50s and 60s dynamic, and they were like, what is this? Like, what are we watching right now? Where's the punchy? Where's the fly? And I kept telling people, like, just wait, man. It's like chapters. You just have to wait for that to unfold. It will come. But I was all for that too. I was absolutely in love with just the whole idea. What are your thoughts on the next? Well, we're actually on episode 6 now. What are your thoughts on WandaVision? Where do you think Evan Peters came from? I want to know what you guys think in terms of your theories, because there's quite a few. And we can go through just like every other theory on YouTube and be like, the mailman's Mephisto, the dog's Mephisto, the stork is Mephisto, maybe Wanda's Mephisto. But we're not going to do that. But I wanted to get your perspective on what's going on with that show. Because that's the great thing about the show. It's so water cooler. And honestly, like, it's so neat to see, because I was just, I was always a fan of David Lynch. And even when I was a kid, pretty progressive show for somebody my age to be watching. So probably like 13 at the time, maybe. Twin Peaks was my absolute favorite show even then. And, this is kind of unfolding, like that to me. It does feel like you're watching Twin Peaks, and you're, like having these conversations where people are actually really concerned with what's going on with the storyline. And plus, the fact that you don't know what's going on, it's just theorized over and over and over and over. And you don't really see that with a lot of shows, because a lot of shows are pretty linear. So I'm really excited to see where this unfolds, but I wanted to see where you guys were at, because as this is recording right now, we're on episode 6, which is tonight. So
what I love so much about WandaVision is every single shot has a purpose. Like the music, the way it's shot, the different decades of sitcoms that they're showing, everything has a purpose. So we're working from the 50s till the present. With every single shot, you can see how there's little Easter eggs that pertain to, the Infinity Wars and Wanda's history and Vision's history.
They've brought in a lot. It's amazing what they've been doing. The little Easter eggs. I saw someone post online about the card trick that Wu did and how he learned that from Ant-Man. That just is suit, and I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. And then all the fans were like, "Wait, what?" And then you went back and rewatched the episode, and there it was.
Yeah, Jimmy Wu real quick does the card trick, which Park actually learned. I think it was like 2 days, he said, before he started shooting. So it's pretty impressive.
That's even more amazing.
Mephisto is such an easy out. It seems too simple.
That's
actually.
How I was feeling.
Yeah. And I follow theories all the time, on YouTube, online, reading people's articles and whatnot. And really, honestly, as a fan, I'm really more of the sound mind right now that there is a split personality between Wanda, where Wanda, is actually the sitcom Wanda. And then when things go awry, or she actually has to face some sort of emotional trauma from her past, that's when the golem of her Smeagol, so to speak, comes out and tries to, remedy that. So she doesn't have to face the pain of her past and her present, because, of course, people are trying to obstruct her peace and, at this particular moment. What's really fascinating also is that it's interesting in the way of, you can feel sorry for her, but at the same time kind of despise her as well, especially what she's doing with this synthetic man that she loves. And he even says it. He says, "You can't control me like everybody else, Wanda." And she goes, "Can't I?" So, the golem within her, the split personality that she has, her dark passenger, to use a Dexter reference, it seems like she would go at any lengths to make the other Wanda happy. That to me, it just seems like a complete and utter psychological split.
It kind of seems like that darker side of Wanda has stepped up and like you said came to be as a whole separate person to protect Wanda. And that's a psychological thing. That's a real psychological thing that actually happens in real life with people, you know, when they experience a great trauma, and it's a coping mechanism, it's a protective mechanism.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, obviously this episode is, you know, kind of focused on Halloween, which, you know, obviously that tickles two of my itches because number one, I'm a classic comic book fan, and of course they're going to be wearing the gear from, you know, the classic Marvel comics, and of course it's Halloween. What's really fascinating to me though is that he says to her in the last episode, he says, "I walk to work every day, Wanda, and that playground is empty. Where are the children in Westview?" And she says, "We don't need to talk about that. You know, we don't need to get into that." And then of course, you know, the next episode is Halloween, and there's a bunch of kids, you know, walking around. So it seems to me like she actually, you know, changed that, you know, like fabric, so he wouldn't.
Oh yeah, hold on, wait a minute, I did miss that, and then had to like figure it out and make it happen.
Exactly, and it's really sad just to see what he's going through, because I think the most human thing, aside from the great performances that you're getting from these two, when they're getting ready to go at blows at each other, and Vision says very clearly, and it seems very human, "I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. I don't know anything about myself." So, I mean, it's just an incredible show. I mean, there's just so much to talk about. But do you think there's a big bad, or do you kind of agree with me, guys, that there is, you know, kind of like this, you know, maybe psychological split, and it's a little more simple than people are making out to be?
I'm thinking that since they introduced Evan Peters in the last episode, there's going to be a major introduction with X-Men that's going to come in.
Do you agree with that too?
I definitely agree with that. I don't know why they would bring him in if that wasn't what it is. You know, why wouldn't they just use the other actor? I mean, there could have been reasons that they didn't use him. He could have not been available or didn't want to partake in it. But I think that they might be attempting to do a multiverse kind of crossover with that.
To me, it kind of feels like it's just, I mean, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but it seems like since they spent the money to buy out 20th Century Fox, you know, I'm hoping that it's just not some just big flex on Marvel's part, and they're just like, you know what, we can just snatch whoever we want from here, and we're going to make him Uncle Jesse, like an Uncle Jesse type, and it's not going to make any sense whatsoever, and it's not going to bring anything to the equation when it comes to the game changers that you guys are expecting. I hope I'm wrong, but why does he come in? Because she just recast the show, right? Or somebody recast the show.
Yeah, somebody did. And the thing is, I don't know if it's Wanda. I would like to think that there might be a big bad, because then that would make it, oh, it's simple, that explains everything. But the quote that the lady said was like, the devil's in the details. You know, that could mean anything. That could have been just her trying to bring Wanda to the attention of, hey, there, look at all the details, look at everything that's going on here, you know, snap out of it. It couldn't necessarily be Mephisto. It could just been.
Well, they're really trying to throw you off, because I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was in the 50s episode. She says something about like, oh, anniversary. Oh, my husband Ralph is the same way. Doesn't realize that our anniversary is on the 2nd, which is actually the 2nd was the Salem witch trials. And Agatha Harkness was burned at the stake during the Salem witch trials. So, you know, and of course, a lot of women were persecuted simply for the fact that, you know, these Puritans, you know, thought that they were worshiping the devil, or, you know, like, or coveting the devil in a sexual manner. So I can see how people are thrown off by the whole Mephisto thing, but I don't know. It just seems too too simple. It's too thin.
With how many curveballs they've thrown already. Yeah.
And, you know, again, you know, like when it comes to the audience that just stepped into, you know, into the world of WandaVision, because, you know, there are a lot of new fans that haven't seen any MCU movies. I think Kevin Smith was saying that his wife, Jennifer, can't stand Marvel movies. And she's totally in every week. Like, you know, Kevin, WandaVision's on. Come on, let's go. Let's watch it. Because it, you know, it caters to not only men but also women as well, because it also has a lot of emotional depth, and there's a lot of things that people can relate to in a human manner. When you're watching a powerful witch that's made from a mind stone and a synthetic man, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. So that's the first episode of Pop Jedi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you guys aren't familiar with the show or familiar with the channel, you can please subscribe on the Horror Web YouTube channel. You can catch us all on Facebook, Instagram. We'll actually have some more official media for the brand Pop Jedi itself. We'll have more details on that. We have an incredible piece of artwork that we had done by Thomas Tenney recently, which is all of us as Pop Jedi Masters, where Die is a Togrutan, you were from Dothamir, and I am a human. Really awesome piece of artwork that we're going to create some exclusive t-shirts for that. There's going to be a lot of news coming out. This is our first episode. It's our launch episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'd love to hear what you have to say, so please leave all of your descriptions when it comes to WandaVision, any theories in the comments, and we'll see you next week for more news in the pop culture world, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.